Amazing. Well, Mandy, thanks for joining me today to discuss, to get into the topic of AI in the built environment. And I'd love you to give us a quick intro shortly, but just to let you know, in terms of this is part of a series that I'm doing in collaboration with the Red Foundation, Tom Shrive, who's my contact down there. And the Red Foundation are bringing all with an interest of real estate and data together to share insights and agree industry conventions. So, AI is a very important topic, and that where the data behind that is obviously key. So, maybe you can give me a quick insight on where your angle is within the real estate world or the built environment, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Well, it's nice to see you. Thanks for having me, Alex. My name is Mandi Wedin, founder and CEO of Feroce Real Estate Advisors. And at Feroce, we work with forward-thinking companies, and we work with them to leverage change to build value, to position their real estate and to position their people to be successful during times of disruption. And most of our work is at the intersection of commercial real estate investment, institutional investment, technology, and sustainability and ESG. I add the R, so environmental, social governance, and resilience for ESG+R. And I come to this with 20 plus years of experience running real estate portfolios at private equity shops and publicly traded REIT, multi-billion-dollar portfolios of office buildings and apartment buildings and industrial projects, retail centers. And I was fortunate during those 20 plus years. My role and my experience was about growth and change and acknowledging or recognizing that change is a value creation opportunity. And we do that when we build high-performing teams who can recognize that opportunity and then go execute. So that's my fun day job for us.
Excellent. Well, look, I'm really excited about getting your input, actually, Mandy, given your background and everything and expertise. So, the first question is: can you tell us about your role in the built environment and what you do, what your day-to-day work involves? Then maybe going a little bit deeper into what you discussed there.
Sure. So it's a combination of things. So there's the sort of nuts and bolts asset management work or portfolio management work. And I sit in many cases, in a fractional executive role, head of asset management or chief operating officer for a real estate company to ideally, the opportunity is to position their team and their organization to grow, to launch a new fund or to raise a new fund to go to an institutional level, to build that foundation so they can execute well on that while taking care of the real estate and the teams. So that's a piece of it.
Yeah.
And then I spend a good amount of time on implementing ESG across existing portfolios, because we're still in the process of, we've set a goal, we have a roadmap, and now the work of actually making decisions that align with our ESG goals and our financial return goals are made at the building level decision or the asset management level decision. So we have to get it down into the operations so that they can make those decisions and execute well. And then I spend time advising PropTech technology companies about what the industry needs and how they can serve it.
How they can support those companies. Yeah, that makes sense. Excellent. Well, obviously on the topic of AI, where do you see the opportunities for AI integration within this field?
Well, I remind myself and people that we've used AI in real estate for a number of years already in the form of a chatbot when you go to rent an apartment. Now those have changed and improved greatly over time, but we've been, typing with a chatbot and engaging with AI in real estate already. So it's not brand new. I think the biggest opportunity is also the biggest challenge, and that's recognizing that AI is a valuable tool when we have good quality data. And right now we don't have as a general rule, we don't have access to good quality data that we can use to feed into the AI tools that then give us actionable insights and help us make better decisions. So we have some work to do to build that foundation.
Definitely. I mean, that's so fundamental, obviously. I mean, the AI is useless if it's not being trained on the right data. So yeah, I mean, how do we overcome that within the real estate world?
Yeah, the first step is recognizing that it needs to be done, right? And then going to find where all these data sources exist today, because there's data for building level performance, energy usage, water usage, occupancy data, all these things. They're just in different pockets. So we have to recognize where they are. Um, if we want them, bring owners, if we want them, bring them into one warehouse or one data lake or one place where we can use that information and layer that information to then use it as an input into our AI tools. It's a lot of work, right? I liken it to when we have to replace a roof on a building. It's not revenue generating.
No.
It's painful money spent, right? It's good money spent, but it's painful because we're not revenue generating. Building this data foundation, this first piece of it, doesn't lead to a revenue generation moment one. It can, but
Yeah.
the action of collecting it is an investment to get to that revenue generation. Many
Yeah. I mean,
organizations are doing it. It just takes some time, and it's a constant process, right? You need to continue to get real time, clean your data, and validate your data so that it can be useful. And when it is very useful. We get a lot of insights out of it.
yeah, and I suppose traditionally there's not much sharing across the real estate world as well, and that sort of stuff. So potentially those very large organizations that have access to huge quantities of data, the big consultancies out there and that sort of stuff will be, an advantage, I suppose. Or maybe we should be encouraging, a little bit more sharing. But I don't know how. I can't see that cultural shift happening very easily.
I think that's true. We do anonymous data sharing now with valuations and returns, like the NCREIF Odyssey, which is um, a way to track returns and compare comparable funds against each other for investors. There's each investment fund reports in with specific data and specific metrics for the fund, and then it's anonymized um, and used for other purposes within that consortium who participate. So we do have a precedent, and we have multiple
Mm,
precedents, but that's an example of crucial, important proprietary data that can be anonymized and used. So we can do it. I definitely see it. We have like utility data is a great example. And that's a place where I really see AI being a valuable tool because we have energy management systems in our buildings and we can optimize the demand response. Like when does a building need? When does it have demand? When does it pull? And when does its demand lessen? And we can use the existing data we have and the data we can collect from comparable buildings or neighboring buildings. And when we connect those buildings and that energy management system to the electricity grid, that provides a more resilient electricity grid in that region because we can plan for energy and capacity better. And so that is a direct application that we're seeing more and more of those come online. And that'll help both those buildings and that grid in that region as well as the broader one.
makes loads of sense. In terms of your sort of usage of AI, have you experimented with any AI technologies or tools within your projects or what you're doing, or what sort of hands-on experience? And I appreciate it's very early days in terms of the big jump in AI's capabilities, but yeah, interested. I'm using it every day in what I do. It's interesting to hear where you might be utilizing it, Andy.
Yeah, my biggest usage is ChatGPT, and I tried it out early on um, and have continued to use it. I use that for research projects. I use it for marketing collateral for my own business. Um, in the beginning, it was totally a novelty because it was regularly wrong and not valuable, and I was just learning, and it was learning. Now it's greatly improved. It still takes a lot of oversight, but it's greatly improved.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it sometimes throws up some very random responses, or like I had a maths equation come back to me wrong the other day, and I was like, oh, it's not right. Well, and which would be the last thing I'd expect, a computer to mess up. Surely the
Right.
maths is most straightforward. But yeah, so I suppose then you've got to question everything else it throws up. So yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting. There's some obvious challenges or threats around that. I mean, based on that, what challenges or pains have you encountered when incorporating AI into your work processes?
Yeah, so it's very much that I still need to double check the output and check every fact and citation in it. Much like your experience, recently I asked for a comparison of two lists that I fed it um, that were companies that participated in real estate industry associations, and I wanted the overlap, right? Tell me where there are companies in both lists. And when I looked at it, I recognized that there were 6 companies, and ChatGPT kept giving me a list of 5 companies. I was like, well, okay, well, we have a discrepancy. Let's figure it out. So then I asked, did the query of give me the names on this list, one list, and then give me the names on this list. And it's still, when I asked them to do the combined list, couldn't do it. And I said, okay, what about this company? Is it on both lists? Yes. And then I was like, okay, so give me the combined, and never got it. It never got it. It's like,
Really?
okay, so and I fed into it like you're missing this company. It's on both lists. It still
You
couldn't
still
do
do?
it. So
Really?
like there's
Very,
that learning process that's coming up with. And then
yeah.
the other piece that I'm very aware of with my business is I work with confidential client information, so I don't use ChatGPT or anything like that for my client work because
Of course, yeah.
it's not appropriate. And if they have their own AI tools, right, then I can use their systems, but I don't use anything
Yeah,
else for
there's.
that work.
I mean, that's definitely where the ownership it lies, and that sort of stuff. Once you've inputted that information, is I don't know what I don't know what the answer is to that. I don't know if you dug deeper, but it's certainly a grey area, isn't it?
Right. And it's not once it's in there, I just assume it's not mine anymore. It's shared.
Yeah, yeah.
And so can't do that with client information.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Um, so, can you highlight some of the coolest AI applications you've come across in the built environment at the moment?
Sure. So I already talked about the energy demand response tools. I think that's those are super cool, particularly when applied to when there's renewables on site or battery systems on site. And so that when do you feed energy into the grid? When do you build up the battery storage? Those decisions and what are the needs of the building? All of that it was mechanized or automated previously, but now you can predict so much better and have a better plan for it. So I really enjoy that. And there's usually some cool visuals that go along with that.
Yeah, I suppose from
Another,
the
go
ESG
ahead.
point of view, it's very impactful, isn't it? In terms of like you say, you can automate it, but this is going to the next level. When do you need to change the requirements and that sort of stuff, and obviously save a lot of energy and money as well. So
Yeah,
it's going to be
exactly.
attractive to people, businesses.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the dollars essentially, like you can translate it. One of the visuals is into the dollars that you're saving when you're not pulling from the grid when it's peak demand, right? And the prices are higher. Uh, on the flip side, right, you can see the dollar visualization when you're feeding from your battery storage or your renewables into the grid and selling it back because the
Yeah,
grid needs that additional capacity. So that's always fun to watch that in the decision of like when do you switch? Do you pull from the grid now, even though it's more expensive, but it's going to be more expensive in 2 more hours. So that's when you start feeding it back, like all those things, right?
Yeah.
The
Cool.
machine learning around that is great. And
Excellent.
another one that I particularly enjoy is there's some super cool property management tools that are used to engage with residents and customers, both prospects, particularly in the residential apartment world, and then ongoing. An example of that is Elise. I've seen and worked with some clients who use that, and it's the next generation um, chatbot, right? So when you're typing in a question about your own unit, if you're a resident, you have a question about this or that, you can get very um, good information from Elise chatbot. Um, and you get further down and possibly to an answer before there needs to be a human involved, right? Before it was like you get 2 levels in and then they would send you to a human. Now you can get things resolved. And that's also because it has a dashboard about what the property is experiencing for resident requests, work requests, renewal status, all these other things, right? So I think that's a really powerful tool, and we'll see more of that for sure.
Yeah, actually, Tom Shriver, who's the guy I'm partnering with on this series, is doing AI within a property management residentially focused, and they've got a chatbot, but they've got like 20 years of calls that they're training using the chatbot. They're using to train the chatbots, and there's some phenomenal. People they've had some pilots, and people don't know they're talking to a chatbot.
Mhm.
They end up asking, "Are you AI or are you real?" And I'm AI. It's like, oh my god,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah, one of the national property management companies who uses a tool like that, and they white labeled, I think, and named their chatbot or their tool something specific. But people who were prospects went through the rental process and then moved in. They many times come into the office at the building and say, "Oh, I'd love to meet so and so because they did a great job." Well, that so and so, that person was the chatbot. So that's a win, right? For now, we need
Definitely,
to disclose maybe that they're talking to a chatbot,
of
but
course.
it's a
Yeah.
win that they had a positive experience and it got resolved and they want to say thank you,
Yeah, definitely. It feels like something out of Star Trek or Star Wars or something like
right?
that. But I mean, on that topic, actually, what impact do you think AI will have on sort of roles and positions within your field?
Mm. Yeah, I would say that my take on the connection between humans and AI is that most roles, most humans aren't at risk of being replaced by AI. They're at risk of being replaced by another human who uses AI tools, right? Um, there are some roles, I'm sure, that AI tools can serve a single purpose. I liken this to um, in my days running portfolios at investment management firms, we had executive assistants whose primary functions, right? They worked with a team of people to handle scheduling, calendars, completing expense reports and travel, and then coordinating meeting logistics. Well, we learned that there are tools, and this is over the last 20 years, but you can
Mm,
put a tool in place for expense reporting and calendaring and all these other things so that that human who sat in that role could work on other projects. They might still monitor some things. They got to a certain level, but they didn't spend, 8 hours a week
yeah,
doing
doing
expense
admin.
reports,
Yeah.
right? They used their time for something that was higher value. So I think that we'll see more of that for sure. And then I think about it at the building facilities level, just all of the O&M, the manuals for mechanical systems, and the work of storing those and updating them and managing it and then accessing it. And when all of that is stored in one database, and it doesn't even have to be an AI tool, it can just be a database tool
Mm,
where it's searchable and it can be accessed, that's a leap forward that gives more time for those individuals at the building. And then if you layer AI and machine learning on top of it based on problem solving and work orders, you can get closer to identifying the problem and then iterating on the solution based on the AI tool getting you to those answers faster. So I think that's a really that's going to be a game changer. And that's in a part of our industry where we're seeing a significant drop in people who have skills in facility management. The people who are there today are nearing retirement age, and there's not a lot of people behind them to fill those roles. So we're going to need tools to support that.
Yeah, I think you've hit two really good points there. Certainly I don't think people are at threat of AI, like you say, directly, but someone using AI could definitely, take their job, because it's the level of productivity you can reach when utilizing an AI assistant or AI tools is obviously significantly greater. Someone else who I had on this series mentioned discussed an analogy of a farmer having a tractor, or using a oxen or whatever. Farmers still around, but if you didn't have a tractor, you're out of business basically.
Right.
I think that's very. And the second point you mentioned there is also obviously the lack of the skill shortages that we are experiencing in the wider world, with and that's only going to continue. A talent crunch is on the horizon. Birth rates are dropping. The population is will be getting smaller, and obviously and have an aging population as well. So there's a lot more people required to be supported. So I think the people who are working need to be extra productive. So I think AI will enable that. I think it's a very positive thing in that respect. But yeah, you definitely, people listening out there, it's about how you utilize AI that is going to be key. So I think getting out there and learning about it and seeing how you can implement it in your field is paramount and very important. What about the future of AI in the built environment? Looking a little bit, I know we talked about a couple of things, but maybe just going a little bit further out there, like 5-10 years. Is there anything you think it will do that is significantly impactful, or over and above the things we discussed? I appreciate it's hard to say, but just anything crossed your mind in that respect?
I would say that I think it'll be a tool that'll help us use our resources more efficiently for building or retrofitting real estate, which we need to do a decent amount of to meet our long-term decarbonization goals across the US, across the EU, across the UK, across the globe. But that piece will be helpful. And I use the example of there's a firm called Consigli AI. They're out of Northern Europe, and they take AI in the engineering context to help design buildings most efficiently. And so the iteration of here's the box that you can build, as the hotel is an example, how many rooms can you get in this box, in this volume? And how do you optimize the use of plumbing chases and all these things? They can iterate on that very quickly and get to the best result with the human input of like, oh, this doesn't work, or this does work, or we want more of this. And so you can get more out of your resources. I think that's definitely going to change how we engage, how the built environment engages on the new stuff. And on the existing stuff, well, it'll just help us use what we have better, right? Like the energy demand systems and other things. I think it'll be crucial. We still have a lot of work to get there, though. We still have a lot of work to
definitely. Well, like you say, the data, getting the data in the first place, it's all going to be worth nothing if that's not really robust. But like you say, the net zero and the ESG side of things, certainly energy efficiency, it could be incredibly impactful. Are there any ethical or practical considerations that professionals should keep in mind when adopting AI, which we touched on earlier, and you talked about your clients, but anything, would you want to elaborate on that, or any other things?
Sure. Yeah, I think the number one thing that comes to mind is that the amount of water and energy needed to power AI right now is immense, right? And so the question of, do you need a database or do you need an AI tool? And if you need a database, then that's a less energy intensive use than an AI tool. as an example, a chat GPT query uses 10 times the energy of a Google search. So should you ask Google this question without AI Google, or should you ask ChatGPT this question? So thinking about that as we're moving forward, because we just don't have capacity right now to serve the needs of AI and data centers. And they do use so much, right? Like every time I do a ChatGPT query to write an email, I'm essentially pouring one bottle of water down the drain because that's how much water it uses. So I'm thoughtful about that. Like, okay, should I be using this for this? It's the same, energy is the same way. It's like lighting my house for the afternoon. It's equal to that amount of electricity. Okay, so is that what I want to use that electricity for? So I think we just need to be, the royal we, the broader we, need to be thoughtful about that as we start implementing AI
Utilizing
tools.
it more and more, and yeah, that
Yeah,
makes
and
sense.
then we just need to also be aware of the data that we're feeding into AI tools brings historical bias to the table, right? We have algorithmic bias, and it's a real problem because we're using incorrect, biased, or inaccurate data that we're using to train an AI tool. So we're perpetuating our prior errors, prior issues, prior challenges. And examples of this are gender and racial bias in hiring, right? In your
Yeah,
field. So
definitely.
when we use data sets that were previously biased and produced faults, and we just replicate that in an AI tool, we're just continuing and expanding that. And
Yeah,
we
it's
are,
getting
as you noted, we're in a talent crunch, and we need talent in many places, but the built environment definitely needs talent to help meet our goals and complete our transformation.
yeah, excellent. My final question, Mandy, is what advice would you give others in your field looking to explore the use of AI?
Well, on a like personal first step individual level, just try it. Get ChatGPT, get something like it as a competitor, and try it and see what your experience is, see where it works for you, see how it can support you in your work or your business or your family. And then on the enterprise level, at the investor level or owner level or company level, it's the first step is acknowledging that you need it. You're going to get left behind, right? You might not lose your business to AI, but you'll lose your business to a company that uses AI. Same concept, right? Um, and you might need new people. You need new perspectives to help you understand that and then build a plan and execute it. Starting with the foundation is your first step. And then I talk about it with my clients, right? You identify what your goal is, what your North Star is, and then you build a strategic plan and you identify your roadmap and implement. And then the implementation is that's the good hard work, right? You'll get results really quickly once you have the quality data, right? There's a lot of information. Data is an asset. It doesn't have to be a liability if we treat it like we treat our assets, right?
Yeah,
It's
look
there,
after it.
but you just got to get started.
Yeah, keep it clean and make it, yeah, look after it. Fantastic. Well, Mandy, look, thanks so much for joining me today. I really, really appreciated it, and great to get your insight. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alex. This was fun.